If you say yes to everything, right, you will be stretched so thin that you will cease to do any ministry at all because you'll be burnt. You'll be dead. Hi everyone, my name is Adam Cross, and I'm an associate marriage and family therapist in Southern California. I'm also a youth minister, and today I want to talk to you about working in the parish and burnout. The average burnout for a youth minister, and I think the DRE is pretty close in this, is that it's 2 to 3 years. So every 2 to 3 years, youth minister DREs burn out and they leave. And this is pretty common in our church. There's a high rate of burnout for people working in the parish and also in ministry settings. People can get burnt out really quick. I want to talk about that a lot. And again, a lot of this I've learned on my own from personal experiences on what not to do. So I want to share that a little bit. A couple things to keep in mind is that the church is a hospital for sinners, that we are all broken people and we're there because we know that we're broken and we need Christ. So when you're working in a church, don't expect for people to be perfect and don't expect for things to go smoothly all the time. I've seen this a lot of ways, is that you think, at church, communication will be perfect. Communication will be great. And communication in parishes can be terrible. Working in ministries with people can be hard and it can be aggravating. People aren't always going to be accountable or vulnerable or show up. When we're in the church setting, we're working with people. People are broken. And that can cause a lot of burnout right there. You're dealing with other people's baggage, your own baggage, and it's going to come up in ministry. A lot of what we talk about working in a parish setting, like working with teens in youth ministry, or even working in like marriage preparation, there's a lot of really sensitive issues that are going to come up for not only the ministry, but for yourself. And it's going to be really important to pay attention to those things that are coming up for you, right? So that's going to mean having someone to talk to, preferably a professional, going to see a therapist, having someone to really sort through those triggers and things that are coming up with you as you work in ministry. That's a huge source of burnout, right? Something keeps coming up, you keep getting triggered, and eventually you just don't want to do it anymore. I'm just tired of feeling this way. I'm just tired of this. It keeps happening, right? That's a good sign that we need to look at what's going on with ourselves, right? As well as the situation, but looking at ourselves and reflecting on what's going on with us too. So communication's not going to be great all the time. Sorry, it's not. I don't believe it. If you say your parish is great at it, I don't believe it. It's going to happen, right? We can do our best. Conflict will still happen. That's part of life. So we need to look at how we are communicating in our parishes, right? Not everyone's going to like us in a parish, and that's okay. There is a level of obedience to our pastor, right, who's in persona Christi, as well as our bishop, and that we're making sure that we are working well within the apostolic hierarchy of our church. Like, our pastor's going to make decisions, and we might not always like them, but we are called to listen to that counsel. Again, we might not like it, and we can be honest with our pastors and priests, and that's where the communication comes in as well, is that we can be honest and have conversations with our pastors and priests, but we also have to acknowledge where they're coming from with their decisions that they make. That might be difficult. We need absolute clear communication with our priests and our pastors, and if we don't feel comfortable doing that, or there's things in place that make it hard to communicate with our priests and pastors, we can voice that concern. So, I feel like it's really hard for us to have a conversation about this. What would make it easier for us to talk about this? Or, Father, your schedule's really busy and I really need to talk to you, and maybe set this in my schedule so we can have better communication in this certain ministry, about this certain ministry. Priests are so busy. They're so busy. And most of the time they do want to make sure that you're heard, but it might not even be crossing their mind that you want to have a conversation with them. So don't be afraid to voice that concern, to schedule an appointment with them, and even talk about the process of talking about things with them. Right? If your pastor is not great at talking about certain things, then maybe voice okay, I think this is really important and I would like us to better communicate about these things. Communication is probably one of the biggest things that happens in ministry. Again, you're working with people. You need better communication, whether that's your self-reflection of this is how I can communicate better, or putting things in place to help your ministry communicate better as a whole. All right. So communication is key. Go to your pastor, build relationships, understand where he's coming from, and communicate what's going on to him. The other big thing that is guaranteed burnout, like guaranteed burnout in ministry, is saying yes to everything. If you say yes to everything, right, you will be stretched so thin that you will cease to do any ministry at all because you'll be burnt. You'll be dead, right? And there's kind of a little myth, I think, in Christian culture that being Christian means saying yes. We have to be the Good Samaritan. We have to help everybody. But if we say yes to absolutely every single thing, we will be able to say yes to nothing after a short while because we will be so burnt out. In our ministries, we need to discern what is our mission, what is our focus, and am I fulfilling that mission and focus? There's so many distractions that can actually keep us from doing what our ministry is focused on. It's so easy to just get caught up in, oh yeah, we should do this and we should do that and we should do that. It's like, no, what is our ministry? Like, what is our ministry actually trying to do? And are we doing that? And that's a good way to stay focused and to not get burnt out. Am I fulfilling what my ministry is for? That alone, having that understanding can strengthen us, and it can empower us, and it can make us feel more focused and more in tune with what God is calling us to in this ministry. Boundaries are key. Working in a parish and ministry, you need to set clear boundaries, clear work hours, times where you're not going to have access to your phone or work email. Times to exercise are key. We need exercise. It's healthy. It's good for our brains, right? We need it. Journaling. Journal. If you're mad at somebody at the parish, if you're frustrated, if you're sad, journal. Give those emotions, give what is going on to God, right? And then another thing, make a distinction between work and worship. Make sure that every time you go to church, you're not thinking about work. And that's a really hard one because you might be in charge or planning the liturgy mass, but you need to make a distinction between work and worship. Worship cannot always be getting things done, right? It needs to be separate, to keep those separate. And if occasionally you need to go somewhere else for mass, for adoration, for confession, do that. Help yourself to reset those boundaries so that you can better work in ministry and not burn out. And then the last thing I'll say is put Christ at the center. It's so easy to forget that Christ is at the center of our work in the parish and ministry. Between drama, between miscommunications, right? Between boundaries that aren't being set, between being overwhelmed by all of our responsibilities, we can forget that Christ is at the center. And if he isn't at the center, then we are often like the Pharisees, following all the rules and things that we have to get done with no personal relationship with God. We have to make time to stop and just spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes in adoration before our Lord to remind ourselves why we're here, right? And if we put that first, if we put Christ back in the center of our ministry, then our relationships, our communication, our boundaries, our ability to say no and say yes to the right things will slowly improve. If we are able to remember why we're here in ministry, then we can better take care of ourselves because God cares about us. God cares about you. Jesus wants you to be happy, healthy, and holy. He doesn't want you to be some miserable ministry like work machine. He wants you to live life to its fullest. And that's going to require taking care of yourself. So if you don't have a therapist and you're working in ministry, get one. If you don't have a spiritual director, look for one. If you don't have a journal and you don't journal regularly, start that now. Go buy one today. If you don't exercise regularly, make that a part of your schedule, right? And don't eat just pizza. Eat healthy. These are all really important parts of self-care and ministry. And if we lose those, right, and we don't put Christ first, we burn out. And then we forget why we're there at all. Realize that you are doing God's work. And God is also going to work through you when you take time to rest, when you take time to invest in yourself. Because he's invested in you. He's invested his entire life in you on the cross. Right? He's counting on you. He loves you and he's guiding you. Don't lose hope. Don't lose sight of Christ. He's there. So thank you for watching. Comment below. Share this video. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. And thanks for watching. God bless.